This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell, and joining me in the studio today, all masked and socially distanced, are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zach Vassar. We also have the TSO's marketing director, Vanessa Gardner. And on the phone, we have Principal Second Violin and Artistic Administrator Merwin Sue and our intrepid music director, Alain Trudel. Boy, we've got the whole gang here today, don't we?
It's Old Home Week at Toledo Symphony Lab.
Yeah, it's Old Home Week, definitely. Well, we are taking as our point of departure this concert, chamber concert, that is happening. It wouldn't be the first time that you've left early, Zach.
Wow.
The concert is called Prodigal Songs. Get it? Songs, not sons. Prodigal Songs. It's happening March 21st, 7 o'clock p.m. You can stream this live at stream.artstoledo.com. Is this going to be open to the public as far as we know?
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed.
Yeah. I hope you can stop asking that question soon.
I hope so as well. Yeah, because, we've been doing this for a year now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's wonderful that audiences are back, are enjoying the symphony in person. It's a wonderful way. But don't forget that you have all those wonderful concerts still streaming on the stream.artstoledo.com. And speaking of which, this episode is going to air on St. Patrick's Day. So, hey, my friends, if you're listening and you're celebrating St. Patrick's tonight, then why not order up the St. Patrick's Day concert, grab a few brewskis or your beverage of choice, and you're good to go, wouldn't you say, Vanessa?
Absolutely. Slancha.
Slancha, yes.
Cheers to that.
I'm glad we finally know how to pronounce that word, slancha. Well, again, that's at stream.artstoledo.com. But let's talk about the Prodigal Songs concert. And maybe, Merwin, you can talk a little bit about the stuff that we're going to hear on this concert, and then we'll talk about that as well. Why don't you go ahead, Merwin, tell us about it.
Sure. I think the concert really pivots around this pairing of two really early chamber works by two really amazing compositional prodigies. One is by Dmitri Shostakovich, his first piano trio, and then the other is, I believe, Alain Trudel's very first string quartet.
Well, that was
Sorry,
a little
we were
louder.
really excited about that.
A little louder than I meant it to be. In case you didn't hear, that was by Alain Trudel. Alain Trudel's music featured on this concert. Okay, Merwin, go ahead. Don't mind the interruption.
Oh, it's no problem. I'm used to it by now on this show. And then we're actually closing the program with another great compositional prodigy in Richard Strauss. While this is an early work of Strauss's, I don't think it would actually qualify as one of his, prodigal works. He was very much in his stride at the time he wrote Til Eulenspiegel. That being said, we've got this really fun chamber arrangement, Til Eulenspiegel einmal anders, where basically we take the entire, 4 score instruments of the orchestra that typically perform Til and, reduce it down to the necessary 5. So it's really
the necessary
five.
The necessary 5. It sounds like you're regressing into the Marvel universe again, Merwin.
Once again, yes, the Fantastic Four, the necessary 5.
Exactly.
Only 5 people are necessary to play Til Eulenspiegel.
Yeah.
The pranks aren't merry. They're just, slightly sardonic.
I thought it felt more like the Jungle Book, like the necessary 5.
Oh, yeah. Like bare necessities. I get it.
Exactly.
This from our resident composer.
That's right.
Well, there's a lot of stuff to unpack just with these 3 pieces by Shostakovich, Strauss, and our music director, Alain Trudel. Why don't we take them in reverse order and talk about your piece first, Alain? Because this is an early work of yours. You're included in this umbrella of Prodigal Songs. So tell us, first of all, how old you were. Sort of set the scene for us about the composition of this string quartet. Hey, you remember this music?
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, Alain, how old were you when you wrote this piece?
Well, it fits about with the music we're listening to.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s, yeah. I was, it's a few years. I wrote a little bit when I was 15, a little bit when I was 16. So it's really during the teenage years. And I didn't know anything. I mean, it's really, I don't know. It's like it's from a past life. And when it's played, it always feels like it's a piece by somebody else. It's really interesting. I mean, I like it. I mean, I don't deny it. It is what it is. I mean, once it's out there, it has to live by itself. It has its own life, and that's the most difficult thing for me anyway. When I write music, is just to stop fiddling with it. No pun intended. But once it's out there, and no, seriously. But it's yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of I would say energy, preoccupation, a little bit innocence of when you're a teenager. You know, you just go all out for some things, and you would look at it after and say, "Oh my God, I would have kept myself a little bit of reserve there." But you don't know when you're a teenager. You're just all out. So that's why I never went back and fixed anything, and then I just left it out how it is.
Well, I have to say, I remember hearing this during it was the 419 festival that they performed this piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's really a likable piece of music, sort of just like you, Alain, a very likable person as well. But I remember hearing it and thinking, gosh, a lot of this reminds me of Shostakovich, you know.
The same feeling.
Yeah. A lot of influence of Shostakovich, yeah. Shostakovich and Bartók are... Shostakovich, Bartók, Mahler are, you know, the heroes I have that are not in classical music, that are not in the the Romantic era or the classical era. But I would say the composer that influenced me the most, especially when I was, those are the ages where you basically I heard like maybe a little something of Bartók, and I heard by 16 I had heard a lot of Shostakovich because it was like a composer I really liked. But keep in mind, I started playing music or studying music when I was 12, so I'm not somebody who started when I was 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So I didn't have all that much baggage of knowledge, you know. Oh,
I think we just got points assigned. I think that's what that chime meant. That we've now mentioned the word Mahler, so we don't need to go any farther for this podcast today.
Exactly.
Well, but
all right, we'll see you next week.
If I may, I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I remember hearing the performance. This is 2 Augusts ago, I think, and I felt a fair amount of anxiety, honestly, because it was the first time I was hearing one of your compositions. We then heard another one of your compositions, I think that September. Actually, that's not true. I think we had one of your compositions on your opening concert, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, it's something very short.
Yeah, right.
It's difficult for me to talk about my music. I'm giving him a big effort.
But it is. But I remember just sitting and closing my eyes and falling into this music in such a beautiful way. And I was speaking with Carly, who played cello in that performance, and she's so happy that we're performing it again and is excited to hear it because, she was, of course, creating it at the moment. She wants to sit back and have the experience I had. But I'll be honest, I pushed really hard to get this onto the Chamber Series this year. And because of those Shostakovich Alliance reference points, I thought was really appropriate that Merwin came up with the idea to pair it with the first trio.
Yeah.
But you should really be proud of this. This is maybe a moment from your teenage years, and I'm sure your compositional chops have only become more formidable since then. But this is still a beautiful, beautiful piece of chamber music.
Yeah, you got to own it, man. You wrote it, you own it. You break it, you fix it.
And I mean, let's face it. You could have taken the easy way out. You could have written a trio instead of a quartet, and at that, a one movement, 15-minute trio, like old Dmitri did.
Well, I'm interested why you gravitated towards strings because we know you as a brass player, and strings can be kind of tricky to write for a string quartet. And you were a teenager. Were you studying the string technique? I mean, what got you interested in doing a string quartet?
Shostakovich string quartet. I didn't know
That's it right there.
Let me rescue Alain just a little bit from this, because I could totally get it. When I was like 14 and a half, it was the first time I heard the Shostakovich First Violin Concerto, and it changed my life. This was a composer who somehow really captured the ability to kind of sublimate personal feelings and emotions, combine them with the world around him, and somehow transcend all of it. It's not just personal, it's not just geopolitical, it becomes universal, and yet it very much lives within his personal experience and his political experience. And it was life-changing for me as a teenager. And like when you go to the string quartets, they're even more personal, and they're even more vulnerable. And I think it's in a weird way, there's almost a permission granted that, like, when you're listening to a Shostakovich string quartet, you go, oh my gosh, I can write like that. I'm allowed to put my heart that much out there. Mm-hmm. And it's liberating as a performer. I can't imagine it. It's probably similarly liberating as a composer to say, I can write this melody that makes me feel the way I feel and just put it out there.
Yeah. Well, Merwin, we wait with bated breath for your string quartet, definitely, for the Essential Five.
Or trombone quartet.
A quintet.
It'll only be appropriate.
Still waiting for that.
A big influence was also the Juilliard quartet recording of all Bartok string quartet. You know, that old recording that's never been, surpassed. Yeah. I was really big into, of course, the chord number 2 and 4. And I don't know. I mean, I'm a brass player, but I didn't really listen to brass music. I mean, except on the jazz side. But on the classical side, when I was a younger kid, I wasn't too much into brass. It's really, really liked string music a lot.
And I want to rewind for just a second, because something you had said earlier, I never considered. You were starting to play music at, you said, age 12, yeah?
Yeah.
And so this is a piece from, very early in your world of understanding music, 4 years in or so. You're composing already. I mean, I'm at 3 years in, still looking for middle C, and you're writing string quartets.
That's what makes him a prodigy, and just a normal guy.
Just another old hack.
Yeah. I had the really amazing luck of in the high school where I went, that two mentors that were amazing. And it was a public school, and we had a symphony orchestra in the school also. But it was like, it's basically with whatever instruments we had. But one of the mentors we had, one was about, made me conduct every week, which is invaluable when you're a teenager. You start having access to what we call the instrument, the orchestra. But also we had this other teacher that what he did, we had choral with him. Of course, we sang, and we also had a kind of an appreciation, music appreciation, and also he would challenge us, and he saw that I liked writing music. That's really what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a composer. I knew already when when I started off almost. I wrote music. The first year I was, playing music, I was already starting to write some stuff. Nothing any good, but just trying, having a desire to write something. And but it's not even a desire, it just happens. It's not something you wake up one morning and say, I'm going to do this. It needs to happen. So and he always encouraged me, and he never judged me, and that helped me so much, because it's a tough world. Now not as much as in the 80s and 90s, is that the aesthetics in the 80s and the 90s, you need to be like very avant-garde, and you need to be in the Darmstadt school, especially from where I am. And if you wrote something that people recognize, like, oh, I think that's a chord, it was like, you have to be burned on somewhere in the middle of the town, But,
it's very dramatic.
So,
yeah.
Wow, Montreal is different than Edmonton.
Well, it's really gentrified.
Yeah, but anyway, so that was a big thing, and to have somebody when I was a teenager to just tell me, oh yeah, keep at it. You're doing some good progress there. And even if some of it was like, I always wrote stuff, and I wrote some choral piece that we even sang on TV when I was a teenager, and it was interesting. But this quartet, it was a movement. Every 6 months or so, I had an inspiration of something in life or history that I wanted to write. But it's the influences are quite strong in it. So, but I think I really appreciate that you're putting on the program again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for writing it.
We'll take the pressure off of you a little bit, Alain, because I know that you're fairly modest when it comes to talking about your work as a composer. But let's talk about that big influence on you, Shostakovich, and this piano trio, which is on the program. Shostakovich was a teenager when he wrote this piece. Who wants to jump in and talk about the piano trio number 1 of Shostakovich?
Well, this is the piece I was making fun of a second ago. It's a magnificent piece of chamber music. It's a trio, not a quartet, as I mentioned. It's
right, essential 3.
Essential 3. It's a single movement, unlike Alain Trudel's piece, but also written by a teenager. And as Merwin was talking a couple minutes ago about the quartets that Shostakovich wrote, even though this is such an early work, it does foreshadow so much of his style. There's that sort of like sneering, dancey kind of the Dumke idea that he brings in so beautifully. The harmonies are so Shostakovich rich. And I think it's opus 8. I mean, this is still such early days for Shostakovich, but it's such a great opportunity to kind of forecast where he's going to go with his music in the world. And if I compare this to one of the late quartets that he wrote, Merwin, help me out here. Which is the one that's all slow movements?
The 15th. Oh my gosh, that's just...
I mean, you can't really draw a line between this and that. But if you were, I mean, you can just basically say that he's somebody who, as Merwin said, put his social, political, his personal experiences into his music. If you draw that line from this Opus 8 to that 15th string quartet, you can only imagine the kind of life and pressure and experience he must have had, because he was already writing at such a high level, and he went there.
I think that life and pressure that you talked about started really right around the time he was writing this piece.
Mm-hmm.
His father died just a few months before that, and so he was basically working. This was right around the time he was starting his kind of cinema piano sort of thing. And so on one hand, he's playing all the time and getting paid for it. On the other hand, this is exactly the type of playing that he found was really kind of hampering his creative aspirations, because he couldn't really sit down and not have these kind of like silent film scores that he was improvising not go through his head. And so I think that you really get that sense of somebody pushing through something. I think this was maybe one of his first huge life experiences, and the first time he ran into this sort of creative barrier. And I think this piece was kind of that first way out through that.
Well, you may remember a few years ago we did kind of a Prodigy episode where we had the violinist Blake Pulio on, and I know that you know him very well, Alain. And it was about musical geniuses, and we did have a little Prodigy quiz. So what I've done is I recycled that quiz.
Found all the wrong answers.
From years ago, yes. Only wrong answers accepted.
Merwin never needs a leg up on the quiz. I think
seriously,
this is highly unfair.
Repeating an existing quiz. I mean,
well, Merwin, you were on that episode, right? I know Alain was.
And you were there, and you were a Tin Man.
And you were there. Yes. I think the only one who wasn't there was Vanessa, so she will definitely...
I'm sure she was listening from Texas.
Win the quiz.
Totes.
Yeah. I'm taking a few of these out, but...
I saw you crossing stuff off there.
Yeah.
I love it when we start saying things just,
I was like, nah.
anecdotally, and you're like, oh, damn, that was in my quiz.
Can't use that.
Hey, that'll give me a chance.
Oh, I might have just gotten bleeped. I said, damn, on NPR.
Yeah, that's okay. You can say...
Wow.
It's all right. Not a problem.
Good thing I'm not the host.
All right. So I've only got, because I crossed out a few, I've only got 4 questions for this quiz.
That's going to be a 4-way tie.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I give you a clue, And you tell me who it is. I'll give you a second clue and then a third clue, right? And you have to tell me who this is. This person is a prodigy, and they can be a fictional character or a real person.
Wait, are you reading off the clues already, or are you telling us how to play?
No, I'm just telling you how to play. Okay.
This person is a prodigy, and he might be real.
Let me bring in some music here. This is not Alain's string quartet, by the way. Okay.
I feel like I'm on an episode of Great British Bake Off.
I
kind of wish I was.
My pie just fell. My cake.
Is the answer Paul Hollywood?
Zach, you lost that extra point. Or that actually went to Alain earlier. So Alain is ahead by 1. Zach is behind by 1.
-1.
Everybody else has 0. Okay.
Demand a recount.
This person became a famous pianist while still a child and toured Europe with their father.
Mozart.
Which Mozart?
Wolfie.
Nannerl. Not Nannerl.
Yes. Seriously. Maria Anna Mozart, also known as Nannerl. Okay. Good job. I'm going to give that to Merwin. All right. No, Merwin actually won that point. It's okay.
I'm with Vanessa.
This person earned a perfect score on the SAT at the age of 6, completed high school in 9 weeks at the age of 9, graduated from Princeton University in 1983 at age 10.
Doogie Howser.
Yay! Yeah, you remember this from before. It seems like yesterday, doesn't it?
Wait, is that really the answer?
Yes.
I mean, of course it was the answer.
It was totally the answer. I think
I calculated this graduation year.
I'm going to start uncrossing out some of these from before. Okay.
You have to give Merwin more chances to get more points. I see what you're doing.
Yeah. This child was playing 4-hand piano arrangements alongside their father at age 5. No clues? Okay. Started composing at age 7, and by 11 had written a famous ballet. His first opera came at age 21 and made him famous across Europe.
Prokofiev?
Is it Shostakovich?
No, but this is a prodigy. Did I say that before? Yeah,
They're all
it's a prodigy.
Yeah.
Benjamin Britten?
Well, who do you think of as like the quintessential classical music prodigy?
Strauss, maybe?
So this guy shares a name with Mozart.
Mozart.
Korngold. It's Korngold.
Yes, it's Korngold.
Okay, gotcha.
Erich Wolfgang Korngold, right?
Just like Eric Wolfgang Mozart.
Okay, here's the last one. When this person,
Wolfgang Van Halen,
which is a real person,
I like how
yes. I was like, did
Van
he play
Halen.
piano duets with his dad? It's possible.
when this
Now
okay.
I can't unsee that.
All right.
Oh, bless.
And now our listeners can't either. All right. When this person was 8 months old, they smiled at their father's violin playing, but winced in pain whenever Dad hit the wrong note.
Who's Winston Payne? I'm sorry. I see one of the articles of the Confederates. I'm sorry.
No, but I'm writing that down because that is a fabulous pseudonym. Winston, P-A-I-N-E.
No, P-A-Y-N-E.
P-A-Y-N-E.
Spells it with a Y.
Oh,
Yeah.
P-A-Y.
Yeah.
Okay. I stand corrected. Okay, back to the quiz. They asked for a violin at age 3. They made their public debut at 5. While still a teenager, they played Carnegie Hall and became famous as a violinist. Merwin, you should get this.
I really shouldn't. I'm still stuck on Winston.
We'll just start naming some famous violinists besides Winston Payne.
Heifetz.
Okay, Menuhin, Heifetz.
Zach got it. Heifetz.
I was going to say Menuhin though, so Alain, I was with you. I was between the two.
Good job, guys.
Excellent.
I love that little jingle. It's like the more you know. It's like one of those little PSAs from NBC circa 1984.
A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. The more you know.
Exactly.
So I have to give that to Zach, but it's a toss-up between Zach and Alain.
I want to point out that you always count these things up and say that Merwin won by 73 points. And now you just maybe kind of have to give it to Zach. I get it. Yeah,
well, but you also lost a point earlier, remember?
For bad behavior. Okay, fine.
And Alain gained a point, so I don't know. We'll just say Merwin won.
I said we give it to Shostakovich.
Yes, Shostakovich is the winner. Absolutely. Wonderful.
I think you would do well on quizzes.
Yeah. In the time we have left...
You would be totally disgusted with it.
Tell us a little more about the Strauss piece, because we should try to mention that it's in German, obviously. Til Eulenspiegel is a character from German folk mythology, but the rest of the title of this arrangement is Einmal anders, or something different for once, right? Merwin, why don't you tell us a little bit about this piece and how it's translated for the Essential Five?
Well, so I almost feel like I should pass the baton to Vanessa for this one, because Til Eulenspiegel is such an iconic piece for the French horn. But why don't I pass the baton a little bit to that?
Well, I don't have a ton of experience with this reduction, in air quotes.
This non-essential reduction, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
All right.
But yes, Til Eulenspiegel, I remember practicing the opening solo in my high school band hall.
Is that the one that goes...
Yes. And it is...
It's a great audition piece.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah. That was
especially
a
when I
perfect
sing
rendition. And what's difficult about it is the rhythm, because it sounds like it's on the downbeat, but it's really not on the downbeat. And my teacher at the conservatory, Dave Ohanian, Canadian Brass, Boston Symphony, Empire.
Name dropper.
He just really hammered home that rhythm. And so now every time I listen to Til Eulenspiegel, I am tapping in 6/8 and making sure that the horn player plays it in the right time. But in terms of the reduction, I don't see how it's possible. So,
is there a horn in the reduction? Does it have a horn?
Yes.
There's no need for the horn.
But actually, the hardest part is kind of in the center of the piece. That beep up, beep up, goes on and on and on and on and on. There's no place to breathe, and it is such a satisfying lick that when you can play it all the way through without messing it up, you're like, yes.
You see, you can tell that Vanessa is a horn player because she uses the beep-up-a, right, technique
instead of
singing her part, instead of when I was like, nya, 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 right?
No, but you can see that Vanessa is a horn player for one thing, that you can see already she's like, okay, I have to get through this. It's a horn player, especially principal horn players, they often have this saying that says, playing the horn in the orchestra is it's like fun, but without the enjoyment sometimes. So much responsibility.
Yeah. It's about satisfaction, and if you played it well and you're satisfied, then you had fun. But it's not necessarily fun while you're trying to do it.
Yeah.
That being said, it's an incredibly fun piece for an audience. It
Absolutely.
is really, really just such a light-hearted piece, and it I think with the reduction it's even tighter. I think one of the things that's amazing with Strauss, but with Til in particular, is that no episode ever goes on too long. But with this particular Hassenauer arrangement, it tightens the transitions just a little bit, because sometimes you just don't have all of the instruments to cover all of the octaves that the original has, so like some of the transitions are a little bit shorter.
So you're saying that you essentially need a few more players to play this piece?
Correctly, I think. Yes.
No, think of it like a sauce. You're reducing it to its more important elements.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the ruse.
The ruse,
yeah.
Perfect.
So, but there's also something really funny about it. So when I think about the German subtitle, I honestly think of it more like Monty Python, something completely different.
Ooh, that's good.
But there's huge amount of humor here, and Merwin, it might be worth talking for a second. I mean, this is something we originally planned to present at the very beginning of this season, back in September, but it just didn't feel like it was the right mood. It didn't hit the zeitgeist of the moment, when things were very still very scary. They still are, but we didn't know what we were doing going into this season. We didn't know what to expect, and playing this piece then just, I think appropriately, we removed it from that first chamber concert, and I think there's something interesting that we've now restored it back, kind of certainly at what it feels like. I hope the downside of this slope, but maybe through all of our musical explorations since September, we've finally arrived at a point where this does feel more appropriate, and having this sense of whimsy that Til is so famous for, and that this essential non-essential reduction really brings forth in a beautiful way. This is really the time for this music.
I think it's a really great follow-up, actually, because when we decided to reprogram our opening masterworks, we also turned to a reimagined piece. We were doing Vivaldi's Four Seasons, reimagined, recomposed by Max Richter. And in a way, this piece is also a reimagining. But now, I guess, in a few months, in a few years, we can look back on this and laugh. This is exactly the type of piece that we would be doing it with.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, and at this point, we decided to take Til Eulenspiegel and do it with 5 players.
5 kazoos, right? I've always thought of it as kind of like cartoon music, or like proto-cartoon music.
Yeah.
When you hear it, you hear a lot of the Carl Stalling scores for Warner Brothers later on, Looney Tunes.
But there's still some great Straussian moments, though, from those big tone poems. I love how, as Merwin said, it's so compact from Strauss' perspective, and that the original Til is so much shorter than, Alpen Symphony. But it's you'll never bore me with Strauss. So if you put Strauss and you put Shostakovich and you put Shostakovich Prime or Alain Trudel on the same program, I'm going to be a happy camper.
Excellent. Well, the concert is Sunday at 7:00 p.m. Streaming online at stream.artstoledo.com. Stream.artstoledo.com. Let me try that again.
Good job, guys.
Okay, excellent. I have a recording now of that. So the concert is happening this weekend. It's Sunday at 7:00 p.m. You can find it at stream.artstoledo.com if you want to watch it online. But folks can also watch it live in the auditorium. More information at ToledoSymphony.com. Music of Dmitri Shostakovich, Richard Strauss, Johann Halvorson, also our music director Alain Trudel. It's called Prodigal Songs, and we look forward to hearing that. This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony, with generous support from the Rita Barber Kern Foundation. You can download episodes of this program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. Remember, you can check out all the upcoming events at the Symphony by visiting their website at ToledoSymphony.com and their various social media outlets on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can find those streaming concerts from the TSO. Those are online at stream.artstoledo.com. My thanks to Zach Vassar, Vanessa Gardner, Merwin Sue, and Alain Trudel. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab from FM 91.